Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your source material, crack it open, and really unearth those surprising nuggets of knowledge inside. Today, we're diving into a really, really raw chapter from a classic piece of literature. It's a journey that kind of throws us right into the immediate aftermath of, well, unthinkable violence and loss. We'll be exploring the intricate ways the human spirit grapples with grief, trauma, and just the sheer raw struggle for survival.
Yeah, and our mission today is to pull out the unique insights from this incredibly vivid text. We want to help you understand not just the characters' experience grief, but how this specific story really illuminates things like psychological resilience, those fierce, often unspoken bonds of brotherhood,
Yeah.
and the bewildering impact of devastation when your whole world feels like it's just spinning out of control. We're dropping you right into the emotional core here, seeing it through the eyes of someone absolutely reeling.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We begin, immediately after Johnny's death. Our main character is in this intense daze, and he's repeating this heart-wrenching denial. Johnny, he's dead. But he wasn't. That still body back in the hospital wasn't Johnny. He even says flat out, I convinced myself that he wasn't dead. So this immediate, almost physical denial, what does that tell us about the mind's first response to such a profound loss?
Well, the text here powerfully illustrates how denial isn't just, an emotional state. It's a complete sensory
Yeah.
disengagement. Our character is physically bleeding from a head injury, right? But his mind is so utterly consumed by denying Johnny's death that his own pain, his own injury is entirely unregistered.
Wow.
Yeah, he wanders for hours completely oblivious. He's a stranger to point out he's, quote, bleeding all over my car seats. This goes beyond just typical coping. It's the mind's desperate attempt to basically create an alternate physical reality, just to protect itself from a truth that's unbearable.
Like a shield.
Exactly. It's as if the brain puts up this mental block so strong that even physical signals, like bleeding, just can't get through.
Okay, so from that really intense personal shock, our character eventually gets back to the group. And the atmosphere among the friends who are left, they're all physically scarred, bandaged up from a recent fight. It's heavy. A really stark contrast to the, maybe, celebration they'd once imagined. When our character delivers the devastating news, Johnny, he's dead, there's this stricken silence, that's the phrase used. But then the text really zeroes in on Dali's reaction. It describes him running out like the devil was after him, adding he's going to blow up.
Yeah.
What makes his response so singular? And what does the source tell us about the connection that drives such an extreme reaction from Dali, who usually seems so tough?
Well, if we connect this to the broader emotional landscape of the book, you see collective grief ripple through the group, sure. But Dali's response is, it's truly unique. And immediate, because Johnny was, as the text puts it so starkly, the only thing Dali loved.
Wow.
And that right there reveals this profound vulnerability under Dali's, hardened exterior. It shows us how a single intense bond can be like an Achilles heel. And when it's severed, it can trigger this catastrophic unraveling. His grief isn't quiet despair, it's explosive. A violent reaction to losing his sole emotional anchor.
So Dali's grief is explosive, clearly. How does that raw emotion then manifest in his actions right after Johnny's death? I'm thinking of that pivotal scene. The grocery store, the police, he robs the store, then leads the police to a vacant lot, pulls out what we're told is an unloaded gun, a bluff.
Right, and this raises a really important question. Why that specific provocative act? The text gives us this haunting clue. Even as the policeman's gun spit fire into the night, I knew that was what Dali wanted. He was dead before he hit the ground. So this suggests it wasn't just reckless despair. It was deliberate, almost orchestrated, a choice. Dali, in his unbearable grief, seems to use the empty threat of a gun to invite his own end. It's a tragic, desperate form of agency, really. Yeah, where he actively chooses to control how he leaves a world that just took the one person he truly cared for. It's a profound illustration of grief pushing someone to that ultimate irreversible decision.
That's a really powerful interpretation, deliberate, tragic agency. But, couldn't someone argue it's just reckless despair, an explosion of grief? What in the text pushes us towards seeing it as a choice?
I think it's that phrase, I knew that was what Dali wanted. It's the main character's direct, gut-level understanding of Dali's intent in that final moment.
Yeah.
And the fact that the gun was unloaded, explicitly called a bluff, that's key too. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone else. It really feels like he was staging his own exit, almost daring the world or maybe the police to take him, because life without Johnny had just become unbearable. It feels calculated,
Yeah.
albeit desperate, but calculated, not just random.
Right, right. Calculated despair. Okay. So the impact of these rapid-fire, devastating events, Johnny's death, and then Dally's on our main character is just immense. He collapses right after Dally's death. The text says, "The ground rushed up to meet me very suddenly. When he wakes up, he's profoundly disoriented, no memory of what happened. What kind of toll has this taken on him? Physically, mentally?"
Oh, it immediately leads into this period of severe physical and psychological recovery.
Mm-hmm.
He's described as being asleep and delirious since Saturday night all the way until Tuesday. He's battling exhaustion, shock, and a minor concussion.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah. And his delirium is described with these vivid details that show how his mind is still trying to process the trauma, even semi-consciously. Like he thinks he's back in Windrixville, keeps insisting Johnny didn't mean to kill that sock, and even develops these new dislikes, like refusing to eat bologna, which he apparently ate before.
Huh. Weird detail.
It is, but it's a powerful illustration of the mind just struggling to regain equilibrium after overwhelming stress. Everything's kind of scrambled.
And through all of this, his brothers, Derry and Soda, they become his absolute anchors, right? Derry sleeps in an armchair by his bed. Soda is described as completely worn out with circles under his eyes. They just tirelessly care for him. It shows this deep, unspoken loyalty. Yet our character, he grapples with this painful uncertainty afterwards, stemming from his delirium. He asks, "Did I ask for Derry at all, or was he just saying that?" He even says, "It was bugging me." Why is that uncertainty about his connection to Derry so significant here?
Well, it highlights the profound impact trauma can have on memory and perception, especially around emotional bonds. Even while delirious, his mind was active, trying to make sense of things, but his recall is fragmented. It leaves him with this nagging doubt about how he behaved or who he reached out to.
Right.
And so does reassurance. You asked for him and me both, sometimes mom and dad. And for Johnny, that isn't just comforting. It actually shows the true extent of his delirium and also the unwavering, almost invisible presence of his brothers. They were there even if he can't remember needing them in that specific way. It kind of forces us to consider how much our loved ones witness our suffering that we ourselves just can never recall, and how those moments still shape the bonds, even if the specific memory is lost to the person suffering.
Yeah, that's a heavy thought. Okay, so as he slowly recovers, physically and mentally, our character faces this new internal battle, processing the deaths of his two friends. He tries to suppress the memories, telling himself, "Don't think of them, don't remember." But he particularly struggles with the contrasting ways Johnny and Dally might be remembered by, like the wider world. What's at stake for him in trying to reconcile these different perceptions?
But what's fascinating here is the complex nature of heroism and the powerful impact societal labels have on individual memory and grief.
Yeah,
He feels it acutely. He notes nobody would write editorials praising Dally.
yeah.
He contrasts Johnny, who he knows will be seen rightly or wrongly as a hero, with Dally, who he fears will just be dismissed as a hoodlum.
Mm.
Yet almost in the same breath, he vividly recalls Dally's own acts of loyalty and bravery, pulling Johnny from the burning church, risking jail time for them.
Right, he wasn't just one thing.
Exactly. He wrestles with this idea of which one died gallant, reflecting the nuanced reality that people are rarely just one thing. Our personal experiences, the things we know about people, often deeply contradict those public narratives or labels. And the text drives this home so beautifully with that detail about his aversion to finishing Gone with the Wind. Because the description of the Southern gentleman crumpling under streetlights,
Oh, wow.
it mirrors Dally's death too closely, making it impossible for him to escape that memory, even in fiction. It's a stark reminder that labels just often fail to capture the whole messy truth of a person.
We've navigated a truly raw and emotional landscape today, witnessing the immediate shock of loss, the incredibly diverse ways grief can manifest, and those quiet, tenacious acts of loyalty that bind people together in the absolute darkest of times. This deep dive has really shown us the immense psychological and, well, physical toll of trauma, and how the mind attempts to cope, deny, and eventually maybe begin to process.
Yeah, this journey through intense pain and healing reminds us how deeply interconnected our minds and bodies really are, and how even in that fog of delirium or, the depths of denial, the people we love somehow remain at the forefront of our consciousness, even if we don't remember it later. The source material offers such a powerful reflection on those blurry lines between societal labels and personal truth, especially when it comes to the complex individuals we care about.
So what does this all mean for you? It kind of leaves us with this provocative thought to mull over, doesn't it? When faced with the unbearable, how much of what we experience and how much of what we choose to remember or maybe forget is truly a conscious act of our will? versus the mind's desperate protective measures just trying to keep us moving forward.